Okay, and welcome to Yoma 63, Yoma Samach Gimel. Um, I want to start off today with a little bit of Derech Eretz. This is the Derech Eretz part of our shir, where we talk about a little bit about the world. The Daf Yomi learners around the world know a little bit about the world. They want to have some insight into what they think about during the day, which is primarily worldly things. They don't sit in the basement all day. I wanted to recount a story. Um, Personally, I went to buy a smartphone about 3-4 months ago. My wife wasn't so happy about it. She grew up Haredi. I grew up modern Orthodox. But I became Haredi, and maybe I was even more Haredi than my wife for a while. But as you grow older, you realize the need to connect to the world a little more. Um, I wanted to buy a smartphone. I went to the local store here in Telstone. Um, and there was a woman there. And while I was asking about changing from a kosher phone to a smartphone, for all those of you who don't know, a kosher phone basically is it's really prevalent more here in Israel than America. It's a phone which is approved by the Vada Rabbanim, Linyane Takshoret, for calling in Israel. Basically, you're not allowed to have text messaging. You're not allowed to have any apps. For sure, no web browser, YouTube, anything. Everything's pretty much blocked, including Yeshiva World News, everything. No apps, no SMS. Basically, just for making calls. So I wanted to switch to a smartphone and get WhatsApp, to connect to my parents in America, to the voice chat and chat with them in a group. Gmail I wanted on my phone. Eventually I expanded to everything on my phone. Originally I had a Mushkach Plus, which is basically only allows you to have certain apps which they deem kosher. For example, sports is not a kosher app, but Yeshiva World News and Yahoo Finance would be. I eventually crossed the red line, as my wife would say, and I tried the phone without a filter, without any Mushkach Plus. I got Facebook, YouTube, Google. I learned a little bit about Facebook. It's probably, I would say, a complete waste of time, Facebook. You're basically going back to second grade and make all your friends or whatever. It could take up your time. If you have nothing better to do, I guess Facebook keeps your life interesting a little bit. Smartphone is a double-edged sword. It has so many things. You have the whole world at your hands. You have Google at your hands, Wikipedia at your hands. You can do whatever you want right from your phone, right in your pocket. You have the world in your hands, but it does take up time. For example, this lady, she was at the phone store and she complains to the station. She said, "Can you get me a phone without any of the internet? I don't want the internet anymore. I don't want. All I want is WhatsApp. I just want WhatsApp. That's all I want is WhatsApp, and it's making me crazy. All this news. I read the news 24/7. I'm divorced, and I'm nothing better to do with my life, and I'm reading the news all the time. My son, he wanted. He was discussing whether to get the vaccine for the coronavirus or not, and I was trying to tell him maybe it's better not to, and he wanted to do it, and then he took it anyway, and I was going crazy. Even though I read all the news, please, get me, get me a phone without any of the news, without any of the internet." So the guy's like, "Okay, so we have kosher phones." So she said, "Yeah, but I want WhatsApp, and Gmail." So "We can't give it to you. A kosher phone does not allow any apps, even WhatsApp." She was at a loss. She didn't know what to do. I'm coming from the opposite direction. I'm like, I can't take this kosher phone anymore. I want the world at my fingertips. And it was very funny to see, I'm trying to explain to this woman what a kosher phone is. And basically, I'm trying to learn about what a kosher phone is not and what a smartphone is. Coming in opposite directions. But the truth is that both of us are right. There is truth to the fact that a kosher phone has most of the things that make your life more enjoyable or better all at your fingertips. But it also is a big distraction. Takes away from your life. And if you have a busy life with a busy family and raising a family like I do, It really gets in the way. So right now I have two phones. Because now recently they made a ban in the mirror. I don't learn at the mirror. I used to learn at the mirror. And they made a ban at the mirror if you have any phone which is not approved by the Vadar Abonim. It's not a kosher phone. You get thrown out of your seat. You get thrown out of the lunchroom. Maybe you lose your stipend. I think even in Brisk, where they don't normally make too many rules, they even made this rule there. It's becoming very prevalent among Haredi society, among the Yeshiva society, to ban people. Like we talked about yesterday, a little bit of censorship. I really firmly believe that you can't censor these things. It's Baltosif. Torah doesn't mention anything about smartphones. It's a little bit of Baltosif if you're going to answer them. They are a distraction, so I have this best solution. I have a smartphone, which I pretty much keep at home most of the time, and I use for WhatsApp, chatting with my family, voice calls to America for free. And I have a kosher phone to fit in with the Haredi crowd and to make my wife happy. She loves the kosher phone. We have Yoma. It's a pretty good brand, Chinese brand. The fourth biggest telecommunications brand in the world. So it's a decent phone. It's a dumbed down phone. Anyway, that's my opinion about smartphones and kosher phones. A double-edged sword. A little bit of both is probably the best antidote. But it's a sore topic in a lot of people's minds. All right, we'll start from the bottom of Samach Beis Amud Beis. The Gemara says, I'm sorry, the Samach Gimel Amud Aleph, the top of Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. The third line. Umiyislei Rav Chisda Hoil. There is Rav Chisda hold of Hoil. Rav Chisda before said that we said that if you shecht the seirim, the nasi b'fnim, and the seirim and nasi b'chutz, you shecht them before the hagrala, before the lottery, you're going to be chayiv for shchitas chutz. So the Gemara asks, Amar Rav Chisda said on Samach Beis Amud Beis, Hoil of a royal, sorry, nasi b'chutz. The reason that you're chayiv for the Sir Azazel, or both of them, one is going to be used for Azazel and which is going to be L'chutz, is because it could be possibly used for a Sir Naz B'chutz for a Korban Musaf for that day. So does Rav Chisda really hold of Hawil? Amar Rav Chisda, Pesach Shachtu B'chutz, B'shari Mos Hashana L'shmo Pater, Shalo L'shmo Chayiv. Rav Chisda says that a Pesach that he shechted outside, he should shchitas chutz, when it wasn't Yudal and Nisan. L'shmo pater. If you shechta l'shem Korban Pesach, you're pater. Because the Korban Pesach, when it's not Yudal and Nisan, is nothing. There's no thing as a Korban Pesach. So therefore, it's not shchitas. So it's not. You're not being makir of a korban outside. Shechting a korban outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Shelo l'shmo chayev. If you shechta shelo l'shmo, the Pesach that is not during on Pesach turns into a shlomim. Time with the Shalom Lishmo. It's only because you did it specifically had in mind Shalom Lishmo for Shlomim. Hastama Lishmo. But if you had no kavana, then Mistama you meant L'Shem Pesach or Pater Ramai, and you'd be Pater. Lema Hoil. V'roi Shalom L'Shem L'Shalom Lishmo. Bifnim. You should say Hoil. Hoil means that even though you don't have it in mind, since it possibly could be used for something, it could be used shalol l'shmo b'fnim, so therefore you should be chayiv. It says there you need to be oker it. It was designated when you're makdish in Pesach. So here you have to, in order to make it a shlomim, you have to be oker. You have to remove the shem Pesach and make it into a shlomim. In our Gemara, the case of Rav Chisda is talking about is where you're makdish l'shnei seirim, one's going to be la Hashem, one's going to be la Zah, but there was no hagrala yet. You don't have to be oker the shame, so therefore it could be roy for a korban musaf. Rabbi Bar Simi masna hu b'derabba v'kasher le derabba mashani k'dshanina. He, instead of being gores Rav Chisda, he was gores Rabba in both cases. He asked Rabba on Rabba, and he answered like we answered. Ki also Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yirmi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Pesach sheshachtu V'chus b'shari mos hashana ben l'shmo ben shelo l'shmo pater. A Pesach that you shechted the rest of the year, whether you did it l'shmo or whether you did it shelo l'shmo, you're going to be pater. He argues what we said before. We said before, if he does it l'shmo, you're pater. Shelo l'shmo, you're chayav. He says either way you're pater. Amar of Dimi Amrisa l'shmaisik meider of Yirmiyah bishlam on l'shmo ta'alo chazilei. If you do a lishmo, you're in pater, like we said before, because it's not fit. It's not a day for Korban Pesach. El shelo lishmo, if you do a shelo lishmo, which is l'shem shlamim, my hachazile shelo lishmo b'fnim. It's chazi to be used inside the Beis Hamikdash as a Korban shlamim. The amali akira schutz lav shmei akira, being oker the shame, even though you did it l'shem shlamim, being oker was originally a Pesach, be oker the shame from Pesach l'shlamim outside the Beis Hamikdash. You can't do that. Ki asa Ravin, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Pesach shachta b'chutz, b'shari mos hashana ben lishmo ben shelo lishmo chayiv. He has a third sheet. He holds in both cases you'd be chayiv. If you lishmo, the Gemara says even if you do a lishmo, l'shem Pesach, v'atnan mechusar zman ben begufo ben bailim. If you have a korban which is a mechusar zman, meaning the time hasn't arrived yet, ben begufo would be an example. Would be your makdish a korban before it reaches 8 days old. You can't be makdish a korban before it reaches 8 days old. Ben bailim, whether it's a bailim, ezu mechusar zman bailim. What is considered mechusar zman by the owners? Hazav vayoledes hamitzora shekrivu chatasam hashamam b'chutz. Zav and Azav, these people that have missions or yoledes, she gave birth or mitzora, they have to wait a certain amount of time before they have to become tar, and then they can bring their karbanos. They're makdish the korban before the time comes, and they're makriv it, so they're pater because the time hasn't come. All the same, mishalmein b'chutz chayavin. If they're makdish and ola or shlamim, which has nothing to do with their tara, so then they're chayav. Amar of chikli baratu v'lo shano el l'shmo, aval l'shalo l'shmo chayav. We're only talking about when they did it l'shmo. But they did it shelo l'shmo. If they did the chatas and the ashram shelo l'shmo chayav. L'shmo miya pater. The Gemara says l'shmo they're going to be pater. Hamai name a hodel v'ruyi and shelo l'shmo b'fnim. According to what we just said, this third opinion that if you do it l'shmo you're going to be chayav. So why are they pater here? There's brayso the mitzora and the zav and the zava. It should be rosh shelo l'shmo for a shlam or for an ola b'fnim. Hachi hash hasam ba yakir hacha pesach shari mos hashana shlamim ninu. They give a new svar over here. There, you're makdish l'shem asham and l'shem chatas. You have to be oker the shem. You have to be oker l'shem shlamim l'shem ola. Here, a pesach during the rest of the year automatically turns into a shlamim because you can't be makar as a pesach. V'ashi masni chayiv kidam rinan. Rav Yirmiyah medifti masni pater. Rashi went along with the opinion that held in both cases, ben l'shmo, ben shalosh mar chayiv. Rav Yirmiyah said in both cases you're pater. Kasar pesach b'shari mos hashana ba yakira schutz lav shma akira. He says that even if you do a shelo l'shmo, we do it l'shem shlamim. You need to do an akira from a pesach to a shlam. It doesn't automatically change, and you can't do an akira outside the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, you're pater. Upliga Rav Chilkei bar Tuvi. He argued on Rav Chilkei bar Tuvi, which said before. Amar Mar mishehigra alei and chayiv al shal shem upater al shal azazel. We said before on Sam Beis Hamikdash. Once you do the hagrola, so then one is already a Hashem, one's Azazel. So therefore, you're chayav and shritas chutz for the shem, because that's supposed to be inside, and your pater shal Azazel because that's going to be anybody be thrown off the cliff outside the Beis Hamikdash. Tan Rabbanan ish mebeis Yisrael asher yishchat shoro kesav oiz b'machane or asher yishchat michutz b'machane v'pesach or moed lo heviu l'hakriv korban Hashem. The Gemara is in the direction of this pasuk. E korban. If it says the word korban, says the word korban shaman, and you feel the kadshe berek abayis. This pasuk is talking about shchitas chutz, shechting something outside the Beis Hamikdash. A korban outside the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayav for shchitas chutz, you chayav kares. You think even kadshe berek abayis, even kachim, which weren't you weren't makdish them to be put on the mizbeach, just to be donated to the monetary assets of the Beis Hamikdash, shenikru korban. They are called a korban. Kinyan shenemar v'nikrav as korban Hashem. The pasuk is talking about kadshe berek abayis. Talmud lomar v'pesach al moed lo heviu. Kol roy lepesach al moed chayav alav b'chutz. Kol she'ein roy lepesach al moed ein chayavin alav b'chutz. It has to be roy lepesach al moed. I mean, it has to be roy and brought as a korban. To be brought near the heichal or inside the heichal. Otzi she'ein roy lepesach al moed. Kol she'be'akabai. This is not roy lepesach al moed. V'lo otzi paras chatas v'sir mishaleach she'roy lavo al pesach al moed. But from this, I wouldn't exclude a paraduma or sira mishaleach that could be brought in the olam moed. Now Rashi takes out the word paras chatas because the paraduma wasn't brought, can't be brought in the olam moed. But the sira mishaleach possibly could be before the hagrala. It was brought in the azara. Tamulomar laHashem, Ishmi Yuchadin laHashem. Also, Elosh Em Yuchadin laHashem. The Seir la'Azazel is not Miyuchad la'Hashem, it's Miyuchad la'Azazel. La'Hashem la'Hotzi, it's the Merzu, la'Hashem la'Hotzihu. When it says la'Hashem, it comes to exclude. V'naminahu, we have a price the opposite. Yirtza la'Karman, Isha la'Hashem. It's supposed to be talking about bringing a korban before the 8th day, before it's 8 days old. Elu Ishim. This is putting it on the korban on the fire, on the mizbeach. How do you know? How do you know you shouldn't be makdish it before 8 days? Talmud korban laHashem l'rabos. Talmud korban. It says korban. Hashem l'rabos sir mishaleach. Hashem is to include sir mishaleach. Also, there's a din of mechusar zman, but sir mishaleach before 8 days old, you can't make a seer into a sir mishaleach. Amarava hasam minyan dekra ve'acham minyan dekra. He answers each pasuk goes based on the way it's darshaning. Hasam del pesach l'rabos. For the beginning of the pasuk, al pesach comes to include la Hashem lahotzi. So therefore, la Hashem is to exclude. Hachad isha lahotzi. Isha comes to exclude. You can't be makar of an animal that's less than 8 days old. La Hashem l'rabos. La Hashem is to include that the sir lazazel also can be makdish before 8 days old. Time of the Rabbi Rachmana halo Rabbi is only because the Torah included it. So therefore, I included it. If it didn't include it, I wouldn't. I would think the Sher Mishaleach is kadosh, even though it was less than 8 days old. We have a concept. We know that the lottery is only koveya, something which possibly has to be fit to be korban laHashem. Both of them have to have the potential to be laHashem. That's why we do the lottery. You're not sure which one is it going to be. And you know, korban laHashem for sure can't be 8 days old. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hamani Chanan Mitzrihi. This Brisa is Chanan Mitzrihi. The sign of Chanan Mitzrihi. Omer Afilu Dam Bekos Maybe Chaveru Mezaviglo. Let's say you shechted the par, and you shechted the sawyer laHashem, and you have the blood in the kos, and the Sir Lazazel dies. So you bring another one of Sir Lazazel and make it a zug, make it a pair. So you see what? So you see that that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the case. It already was the Sir Lazazel, and that's why you have to say that it can't be this new Sir Lazazel. You can't be makdish if it's less than 8 days old. There's no dichuy for the blood of the Sir Hashem. Who's to say there's no new hagrala? Maybe you have to bring 2 new animals and you have to be magril, and therefore it has to be royal Hashem. It has to be possible that it could be la Hashem. And it's not because of Sir Azazel less than 8 days. The author of this brayz is Reb Shimoni. The sign in Mesa Echan Mehen maybe Chavero Shalo Behagrola. Reb Shimon. Hashem says if you have the Sir Hashem and Sir Azazel, one of them dies, you replace the one that dies without the Ruginu Hagrola. Ravina Amar. Ravina gives a different explanation. What are we talking about when we say the Sir Azazel? It can't be makdish less than 8 days old. It's when it gets a mum. It got a mum. And then you're machal it, you redeem it on a different Sir Azazel. Without doing a new hagrol. I'm not tamra the pasal be mum. How do you know that a mum apostles the Sir Azazel? Tanya v'isha lositnu bahem elu achalavim. You shouldn't put it on the fire. This is referring to the fats. Eli Allah kulan. I only know all of them. What about a little bit of kazayas of the fat? I'm a little mehem. Mizbeach zuzrikas dam. You shouldn't use rikas dam of balmum. Lashem larabos shem shaleach. Hashem is to include that you shouldn't be makri of a shem shaleach that has a mum, or you shouldn't use it as a shem shaleach. Itzrech l'michtav balmum. Itzrech l'michtav mechuzar zman. The Torah had to talk about both a Shir Mishaleach that has a mum, a Shir Shaleach which wasn't 8 days old. Because Rahman Zman Mishum Delo Mata Zmani. It didn't reach its time of 8 days old. About Balmum, the Mata Zmani, it is 8 days old. Aim low. It shouldn't be a problem. Because Rahman Balmum Mishum Demois. Balmum, it can't be used as Shir Lazazel because it's disgusting. Kosher Zman, the low mois, aim low. Suricha. Kosher Zman, which is not most, maybe it shouldn't be a problem. Suricha. Therefore, I need 2 psukim. One to tell me that a balmum can't be used for Shir Lazazel, and one to tell me that Kosher Zman, less than 8 years old, can't be used for the Shir Lazazel. And with that, we'll conclude Daf Samech Gimel. Everyone who wishes to hear the shir, you could go onto your smartphone, go into your YouTube app, and listen to the shir. If you don't have a smartphone and you have a kosher phone, I hope at least you have a laptop or a desktop in your home that you can access YouTube. It's worthwhile. Even my wife even allows me to have a computer at home with remote internet, the most basic filter, YouTube pretty much unrestricted. This way, I can make my channel for YouTube, and people should have this so they can watch it. Your phone is a distraction, but at least in your house, you need to have the technology. I mean, this is 2021. Get with the program, all right, guys? All right. Have a good day. Bye.